He went down to Capernaum, a city in Galilee, and was teaching them on the Sabbath. They were astounded at his teaching, because he spoke with authority. In the synagogue there was a man who had the spirit of an unclean demon, and he cried out with a loud voice, "Let us alone! What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." But Jesus rebuked him, saying, "Be silent, and come out of him." When the demon had thrown him down before them, he came out of him without having done him any harm. They were all amazed and kept saying to one another, "What kind of utterance is this? For with authority and power he commands the unclean spirits, and out they come." And a report about him began to reach every place in the region.
I remember the first time I heard someone speak with real authority. I was in college, sitting in a lecture hall where most professors droned on with theoretical knowledge they'd never actually applied. But this one professor was different. When he spoke about business, you could tell he'd built companies, failed, succeeded, and learned from real experience. His words carried weight because they came from lived truth, not borrowed theories. The entire room leaned in when he spoke. That's the kind of authority Jesus had, but infinitely more powerful. After being rejected in his hometown of Nazareth, Jesus goes to Capernaum, and immediately we see the difference. In Nazareth, people couldn't get past seeing him as Joseph's son. In Capernaum, they had no preconceptions to limit their perception. They simply heard his words and were astounded because he spoke with authority. But what does it mean to speak with authority? In Jesus' time, rabbis taught by quoting other rabbis. Rabbi so-and-so says this, but Rabbi such-and-such says that. It was all second-hand knowledge, academic debates about interpretations. Jesus was different. He didn't quote authorities, he was the authority. When he spoke about God, forgiveness, love, and truth, it wasn't because he'd studied it in books. It was because he lived it, breathed it, and embodied it completely. Then something dramatic happens that proves his authority isn't just in his words, but in his power over the spiritual realm. A man with an unclean spirit starts shouting, and what he says is fascinating. "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." Notice something incredible here. The demons recognize Jesus immediately. They don't need time to figure out who he is. They don't question his identity or authority. The spiritual forces of darkness know exactly who they're dealing with, even when humans are still trying to figure it out. The demon calls him the Holy One of God, a title that reveals Jesus' true nature. But here's what strikes me most. The demon asks, "Have you come to destroy us?" There's fear in that question, but also a recognition that Jesus' very presence threatens the kingdom of darkness. Light doesn't have to fight darkness, it simply shows up, and darkness flees. Jesus' response is swift and decisive. Be silent, and come out of him. No long prayers, no elaborate rituals, no calling on higher powers, just a simple command backed by absolute authority. The demon obeys immediately, throwing the man down but causing no harm as it leaves. The crowd's reaction tells us everything. What kind of utterance is this? For with authority and power he commands the unclean spirits, and out they come. They're witnessing something they've never seen before, words that don't just teach truth but demonstrate power over the forces that torment humanity. This story speaks to something we all face, the battle between authentic authority and empty words. In our world of social media influencers, self-proclaimed experts, and people who speak loudly but carry no real weight, we're hungry for authentic authority. We can sense the difference between someone who's actually walked the path and someone who's just read about it. But there's a deeper application here. Jesus didn't just have authority over demons, he has authority over every force that tries to torment, oppress, or destroy us. Those voices in your head telling you you're worthless, Jesus has authority over them. That addiction that seems to control your life, Jesus has authority over it. That fear that paralyzes you, that shame that haunts you, that anger that consumes you, Jesus speaks with authority over all of it. The beautiful thing is that Jesus' authority isn't harsh or domineering. Notice that when the demon left, it caused the man no harm. Jesus' power is always redemptive, always healing, always restoring. He doesn't use his authority to crush people but to free them from whatever is crushing them. Here's the practical takeaway. When you're facing spiritual battles, don't try to fight them with your own strength or wisdom. Speak with the authority that Jesus has given you as his follower. The same power that commanded demons to flee is available to you through prayer, through speaking God's truth, through standing firm in your identity as God's child. And when you're looking for guidance in life, learn to recognize the difference between empty words and authentic authority. Listen for the voices that speak from lived experience, from genuine love, from proven character. In a world full of noise, Jesus' voice still cuts through with the same authority that amazed the crowds in Capernaum. The story ends with news about Jesus spreading throughout the region. That's what happens when authentic authority shows up. Word travels fast. People are hungry for the real thing, and when they encounter it, they can't help but share it with others.